All right, guys. So Trump is, of course, still working behind the scenes, trying to desperately find a way to cling on to power for Republicans for the midterms, trying to cling on to power for Republicans in 2028. And there's been 1,000 plans floated. They've already tried a number of things. I mean, I remember the executive order he signed where he was trying to federalize elections and hand them over to Elon Musk and Doge. I remember that. And so they always have 1,000 tricks up their sleeve. They do this like voter nullification thing. They do these purges, this ballot spoiling. They have 1,000 ways that they could try to disenfranchise Democratic voters, particularly voters of color, and effectively suppress turnout in the communities that they want to suppress it in. Well, now we got a whole new problem here that just came up. So take a look at this from Daniel. He says, new, Ohio has just restricted mail voting, banning the so-called grace period that allows mail ballots to arrive after Election Day as long as they've been postmarked in time, per Trump wishes. This could lead to thousands of ballots to be rejected. Ready? Ohio bans grace periods for mail ballots, fulfilling Trump's wishes. Ohio is the fourth GOP-run state this year to ban ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but arrive after. A Supreme Court case could force that policy nationwide next year. Ohio election officials, Beth Goldenfield, first learned of Senate Bill 293 in mid-October when she was busy managing the fall local elections happening in her county sponsored by Republicans. In a state house with GOP supermajorities in both chambers, the bill sought to repeal Ohio's practice of counting mail ballots that are postmarked prior to Election Day but that arrive up to 4 days after the polls close. This is a priority for Donald Trump, who is hostile to all manners of mail voting and wants to ban so-called grace periods for mail ballots everywhere. Ohio's bill followed his lead, threatening thousands of votes in the process. Now, let me just point out what Trump says here. He makes it up that this is, quote, stealing the election. This is, quote, rigging the election. He makes it seem like Democrats they go after the election. They do all these dumps in the middle of the night, late night dumps, and they give thousands of ballots that end up stealing it and rigging it against me, your favorite president. This is what he says. Does it matter to anybody that that is just objectively and factually incorrect? Does that matter? Or is that quaint? Is that passé in today's day and age to say, sorry, sir, that's just not true? Because that's the reality. What you're actually doing is disenfranchising a lot of voters. What you're actually doing is especially making it so that, a voter who might be in the military and overseas, their ballot might show up late. And he's saying, well, fuck those people. I don't care. So that's what's happening here. Let's continue. Ohio reports about 8,000 ballots that arrived in his 4-day grace period in November 2024 would have been tossed under SB 293. A Republican Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, who supported the bill because he said it would eliminate voter confusion about deadlines and outcomes, Jesus Christ, noted in his testimony that 8,000 ballots represents but a small fraction of the near 6 million votes cast last year in Ohio. Quote, this is not a disruptive change, LaRose told lawmakers. All right, ready for this? But even that fraction could shift electoral outcomes. In conservative Warren County, for instance, when Goldenfield serves on the Board of Elections, several contests this year alone were decided by one-vote margins. Leaders of the State's Association of Election Officials scrambled to digest SB 293 once it dropped. There wasn't enough time to even have a meeting. Okay, so 8,000 ballots would have been thrown out, and they're acting like, that's not a big deal. You're literally taking away 8,000 people's right to vote in this scenario. That's what you're doing. You're saying, fuck democracy, fuck one person, one vote. We're going to actually, technicality you out of your vote actually counting. And then they say, well, some of the elections were decided by one vote. So to poo-poo 8,000 ballots, that's no. And this is what they do, guys. This is what they do on their better days. When they're less egregious, they try to nip and tuck their way into stealing the election, right? On their more outwardly egregious days, what do? Well, you guys know, was it Dominion Voting System or was it Smartmatic? One of the voting machine companies that is responsible for so many machines across this country. It was just bought by a psychotic MAGA Republican. I mean, this is unacceptable. It honestly reminds me of 2004, what was it? Was it Diebold? I believe Diebold was the name of or Diebold. That was the name of a voting machine company. Same thing. Had close Republican ties. That election was questioned as well, the Kerry election. I mean, Gore literally won the election in terms of the popular vote. That's not even disputed at this point. But Kerry, there was all these questions about Ohio. Did Bush steal Ohio? Because there was a whole documentary about it where these Diebold machines are tied to a Republican operative. And so now we're going to do that again? Really? We're going to do that again? How do we not have better laws around this? How is that allowed? How is that acceptable? That somebody who has proven he steals elections. He did the fake elector slate, right? He did it. He was making phone calls saying, don't certify Joe Biden after we knew Joe Biden won, after the violence on January 6th. We know that. And now we're just going to let these people, like, yeah, let a Republican hack own the voting machine company. What? Yeah, let them nip and tuck. Let them do ballot spoiling and ballot purging and kicking people off the rolls because it sounds like a Democratic name. It's a, minority name or a black name or whatever. This is what they're up to. They're using literal Jim Crow rules that they're reinforcing today. They're doing that to try to find a way to steal the election. And by the way, you and I both know they need every fucking trick they can get, bro. They need every trick they can get in the big 2025. They need it. And in the big 2026. Because I've seen those recent special election results, and whoo boy, good googly moogly, y'all are in some trouble. That is some serious trouble. Oh shit, what's that? We won literally 0 elections during one of the special election cycles. 0? Like actually 0? What? There were colossal blowouts, even with like the least interesting Democratic candidates I've ever seen. Really? That's what's happening. There is a backlash, but here we go. They're on it. Ohio Republicans are already trying to steal it. And you know what? Let me say this on the record right now. You know who needs the fucking help? Vivek Ramaswamy. You know who needs the help? Vivek Ramaswamy, who is currently in the midst, in the political battle of his life, fighting against a bunch of racist white kids in their basement who want to call him a Jeet and who want to, accuse him of eating fecal matter, right? Him and Nick Fuentes are now going back and forth, and all the Groypers are now going back and forth. And you have a guy of Indian descent running as a Republican in Ohio, and he's going to need all the help he can get, especially with the map being what it is, right? The election map being what it is this year, and the fact that it's going to be a huge year for Democrats. Mix that with the fact he's got the Republican base in revolt. Who's left? Who's left, dog? Well, I'll tell you what's left. What's left is Trump's ability to try to find a way to cheat the Democrats. That's what's left. We'll see what happens, but understand what this is. Don't get it twisted. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking this is normal. This is not normal. This is exactly what they do. Even when it comes to recounts. What do Republicans know? The lower the turnout is, the better we do. That's usually how it works. So what do? They always argue for, oh no, I'm going back even to the Bush years, right? They said, oh, the dimpled Chads don't count and the hanging Chads don't count. It just has to be, the Chad has to be all the way off. And for those of you who don't know what that means, they used to do this thing where you vote, where you like press down on it and it like pokes a hole through, and wherever the hole is who you voted for, right? And it used to be, there was a scandal because it was like some of the Chads were dimpled. They didn't punch all the way through, or some of them were hanging. But you could still tell who they wanted to vote for because the intent was, yeah, the person where the fucking hole is where they were trying to vote, obviously. Like, duh. But the Republicans tried, oh no, those don't count. We got to throw them out completely because, it was a dimpled Chad and a hanging Chad. And that doesn't count because it didn't actually fully go through. That was their way of trying to say, look, we know if we count all the votes, Gore's going to win. So don't count all the votes. They always have their fucking tricks, and this is their new trick. Oh, sorry, did you vote 2 days before Election Day, but it arrived after Election Day? That doesn't count. That doesn't count. He wants to get rid of all mail-in voting because that skews more Democratic, or historically it did. This is what they're up to. Understand it. Understand it.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.